Hi, I'm Opal. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System, and I work at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. This is the Crafting with Opal program that I do on usually on Thursday nights at 7. This month, with the holidays coming up, we're only going to have this on this Thursday, and then next Thursday we'll be doing painting next Thursday. But this one tonight is a sewing class, and we're going to be making an elf stocking like this, and this is an example of one of the, I made it for my dogs and that's why it's got little puppy dogs on it. And tonight I'm going to be making another one, but out of some slightly different fabric. You can put stuffing in it to fill it out like this afterwards if you want to, or you can leave it flat. I'll show you what it looks like flat later. And next week I've got a painting here just to show you. This is what we'll be painting next week if you want to join us for that. Be sure to start calling tomorrow at the library to ask for supplies for this painting class that we'll do next Thursday at 7 if you're interested. Tonight you could have actually called the library and got supplies for this program tonight for the Christmas stocking. But of course, you know, people probably have stuff at home they want to use. Hi, how are you doing tonight? Haven't seen you in a while. Let's see, I'm getting distracted here. It's like, yeah, that's been a while since the Yarn Toss meeting. I saw you in a long time. But anyway, we're going to be doing the Christmas stocking, and I'll show again, since you just joined, the little Christmas stocking. I really like it. It's the elf one. I found it online. It's not that hard, really. It's actually a lot of fun. And so that was a little one that I made previously for one of my pets. You know, when you don't have kids, you have dogs, you know, they're your kids, so you make stuff for them too. It's cute and decorative. I'm going to make one actually for myself too, out of some Nightmare Before Christmas fabric. Thank you. Anyway, that's what we're going to do tonight. And I've got, if you like this and you want the pattern for it, you can call me at the library and give me an email address, and I would be happy to email it to you if you would like to have the pattern. It's really not that, I think I found it fairly easy on the internet when I did a search for elf Christmas stocking. And I forget what website, the pattern didn't have the website name on it. It must have been on the part I cut out. But yeah, you just follow the pattern. I'll show you how to put it together tonight. So I'm going to switch my camera over so we can look at what we're going to be working on here. I've already got my fabric folded over. I've got two pieces. This is the pattern, of course. And I've got mine with two pieces with the right sides facing each other. And I'm doing another little puppy dog one for my other dog. And you just have the right sides facing each other when you get started. And you put your pattern, of course you'll have to cut your pattern out and tape it together. This one, just line it up the best you can, because these are two different pieces here. It took a little bit to get it lined up just right, and so according to their line, it should have been like that dotted line on the back should have been this dotted line lined up together. It wasn't quite right, so I had to bring it down about probably about a half an inch or so, which really didn't mess with it much at all. It's still working out pretty good anyway. So we'll just use a water-soluble pen on this fabric to draw the pattern on this. Now, when I do the crown, I decided to go with black fabric. So I'll have to use some of my chalk here that's meant for fabric, the white one. So I'll use it to draw my pattern on the crown part since it's black. Because of course this blue water-soluble pen won't really show up on the black. Alright, so the first step is I'm just going to be drawing in my pattern here on both of these, and then we'll pin them together to get ready to start sewing them. I've decided, since black is mostly the color I'm using on mine, I just went ahead and loaded up my sewing machine with black thread. On this part, sewing this part together, you're not going to see the black thread. But on this other one, I was a little concerned the black thread might show through, or the white thread would show through, because that's what I had on my machine before. When we turn it inside out, I was afraid it might show a little bit, so I went ahead and just switched to black so it wouldn't show. So this part will be pretty easy, just drawing your design. What I did last time, I think, so you don't have to pin your design down. If you use something that's kind of weighted so the design or this pattern won't move around, you could do that. I've seen some videos where you can make your own weighted things that have weight to it that will hold them in place. I'm just going to use stuff that I have laying around on my counter here. Will hold down my pattern for me while I draw around it. You can always use pins to pin the pattern in place if you have trouble with it shifting and moving on you, because you don't want it to move while you're drawing in the pattern on the fabric. And you always want to do it on the wrong side of your fabric, because it's a lot harder to see your marks usually on the right side. And plus, you don't have to switch everything around. If I do this with the right sides facing each other, then I've already drawn my pattern, and then all I have to do is cut it out and then even pin it. I don't have to like switch things around again. And less likely to mess up on putting the fabric together, as far as making sure everything matches up correctly. Because if you have it just wouldn't work out if you had the right side facing outwards on it. Because when you turn it around, it wouldn't necessarily, if you're doing like square shapes that are exactly the same, it wouldn't really matter. But something like this that's intricate, that yeah, there's a lot of curves and stuff, you have to do it this way. Let's see, I'm trying not to bump into my camera while I'm drawing these. And this is the way it's done. It's showing 1/4 of a seam allowance on it, and that's what I'm going to use on my machine whenever I'm sewing it. And usually these patterns, when you're printing them, it'll tell you when you're printing them out. There'll be a little square usually on that paper that you cut this out from, and it'll tell you that that square should measure like 1 inch by 1 inch square. And if it doesn't measure that size when you print it out, then the measurements are going to be off on the pattern. This one, it's not a big deal. It was a little off, and I measured it and it showed it was correct. So I'm not sure what was wrong, why these two pieces didn't fit together exactly where it said it was supposed to fit. But you want to pay attention to that to make sure that everything is printing the size that they mean for it, especially when it comes to clothing. That makes a huge difference, and you can really mess up if you don't make sure with a clothing pattern that it's, especially if you're printing it off the internet. Generally, if you buy a pattern at a store, it should be correct, and you shouldn't have any problems with that. It's just whenever you're downloading a pattern off the internet, your printer may not always have the right settings to print it the actual size that it's supposed to. I've had issues with my printer here at home doing that before. At work, it usually, I don't have any problems, but there's something going on with my printer here that seems to be sticking its own margins on stuff that I print from my printer, because I've tried to print address labels on it, on actual address label paper, and it won't line everything up correctly because it's adding its own margins onto it when I print it. And I'm not sure why, because I'll save that information to a file, and when I take it to work, it prints just fine. And I've never been able to figure out what's going on. So a lot of times I've spent so many hours trying to figure out what was going on with my printer that I just gave up, and it's cheaper to print it at work anyway, so I just save it to a file and print it off at work instead. It's actually cheaper really to print at work than it is at home. The print cartridges are kind of expensive. Alright, so just about got this drawn. Move that around a little bit more. And they're showing here too that when we sew the top here, it's going to be a 2-inch seam allowance. Okay, so just about got that. You just want to make sure that it's easy to see, and make sure you can see your, I don't know, yeah, I guess y'all can kind of see it from here. Hey, Pat. Oh yeah, Pat, you do need the pattern. Yeah, if you came by, I would have printed it off for you today. It's a pretty easy one. You might be able to find it off the internet. I can't remember what the name of the website is though, but if you do a search on Google and images for elf stocking, you might find this. I'm pretty sure that's how I found it. Alright, so I've got that pattern drawn, and so since I'm drawing stuff, and I'll pin that in the moment and cut it out. For the crown, you're going to need 4 different pieces of fabric for the crown. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 squares of fabric here for this one. I'm going to put these down. And so you're going to need to cut out 4 of these for the top part. And let's see, maybe I'll move these down here while I'm drawing this part. This is probably the harder thing to, because there's so many points on it. I might just have to use my hands to hold this down. Yeah, because they're going to get in the way. As long as they kind of hold my pattern in place for me, I should be fine. My little Ren and Stimpy metal figurines here. They're heavy, so they do a pretty good job of holding this paper in place. I'm trying to draw around this camera stand that I have here for my camera, making it kind of interesting, trying to draw straight lines. Alrighty. And Walmart's got a whole lot of cute fat quarters right now. Or they did last week when I looked, that were different Christmas fabric that was really cute. I like to buy a bunch of ones like that because you can do a lot of different cute things with fat quarters. I'm actually planning on making some Christmas face masks for my co-workers, since we're having to wear them so much. Might as well have some holiday ones. I made them some Halloween ones back in October. I was going to make some fall ones, but just didn't get to it. It's kind of gets busy. Alright, so I'm only drawing this one time on, since I've got all 4 pieces of fabric already together. I'm going to pin it together and just cut them all out at once. Now make sure though, if you have several pieces on top of each other, make sure they're going to line up with your where you've drawn your lines here. So I'm going to double check. Uh-oh, that one came up a little bit. So, and that's comes right there, so I'm going to move this piece of fabric a little bit this direction because I want to make sure that my little point didn't get messed up there. So this is where my other corner is. Let's see. Oh, hey, okay, thanks Dee. You gave the link for the pattern. Awesome. I bet the website must be listed on yours. Since I gave you the pattern, you came up and got it. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that everything's kind of lined up. That looks good there. Let me make sure the top, oh, that's not quite, alright. I'm going to move this some more. Alright, let's try this again. I'm being lazy by cutting them all out at once. It doesn't always work really well doing it that way. Sometimes it's too thick to do that. Let's see here. All of those come out far enough. I think that should be fine. Yeah, you always want your bigger pieces underneath the smaller pieces to make sure they all line up. I think this is the only one that's going to get kind of close to the edge. Alright, so I think that's lined up good. So I'm going to get my pins and pin this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin them on the inside here. And I'm going to not get too terribly close to the lines because, you know, that's where I'm going to be cutting it. And if your fabric gets too bulky, there's a dog hair on there. You 2 pieces of fabric at a time is not too bad. But 4 can be a little too thick and it might not work well for you. So just depending on your fabric you're working with, I wouldn't always recommend doing it this way. But at least if you can do it this way, you'll know they're all going to be the same shape. Which is really important with this, especially with this pattern. Because of all these points and stuff, you want it to all be the same. Alright, so I'm getting that. I want to make sure it stays flat when I'm pinning all of this. I'm going to do 1 pin across the top here. And I think I might do the sides too. And that should be good enough to keep everything nice and flat while I'm cutting it. Or straight. Okay. I mean, you could pin around the tops area too, I suppose. That might be overkill, but I'm going to do it just to make sure. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut these out. And also, just while here's the actual website and stuff where I got the pattern from. I was going to show this real quick because I like what the person did. They put the little puffy pom-poms on the ends of it, and I thought that was kind of cute on the toes and on the little points of the top. So those are some embellishing type things that you could do to it if you decide. Or you could put little jingle bells. I thought that would be cute too. I wanted to point that out while we were getting started on this. And having one of these type things to push out your corners, especially on this right here that's going to have all these points to it, these are very helpful for that type of thing. If you knit, some knitting needles work really well too. And if you ever bought any polyfill for stuffed animals, the packaging usually comes with one of these, and that's really good for points also, pushing them out. So any of those are some other things you'll need here. And an iron, you'll definitely need an iron to, once we get these sewn, we'll need to definitely do some ironing to flatten everything out. So I'm just going to cut where I drew my lines. I don't think my husband was liking the black fabric that I had chosen for this one. I'm like, I wanted it to, I think it will really stand out really well for this particular one that I picked, the dog pattern I picked. Oh, hey, Mitzi! I haven't done a whole lot so far, just drawing our patterns and pinning it to cut it out. So, and that's really all I'm doing right now is cutting out my pattern here. I've got 4 pieces of fabric stacked on top of each other, and I've just drawn my crown part here, and then I'm cutting out my pattern. We're going to be sewing all these pieces together. There's that one. So, I know this part. I miss having you guys at the library having classes in person. I'll be glad when we get to do this again in person again. And all this coronavirus stuff is over with. Oh, there it goes. I was going to say, I guess I didn't quite cut that far enough. Can you show the website one more time? The website one? Can you show the website one more time, please? Huh. Well, the funny thing is, this is the website that I got the directions from on how to do this, but the actual pattern I found somewhere else, because this person was selling the pattern from the handout you gave to your right. Oh, well, I don't know the website because it's not on my pattern. I cut it off. Is that what you're talking about? Because it doesn't have the website on here. Yeah, I think it was on the actual paper that was around this, and I've already thrown that away. So I don't know. Oh, okay. Yes, the pattern is what you posted. Yes. Now I'm confused. Did I do what you were asking? I can't tell. I have the website for the pattern, but I need the first one you showed. Thanks. Oh, okay. So you've got that. Okay. Now I got it, because yes, that's to the right. Yes. I've debated having these classes in like a Zoom type thing instead of